Chief Administrative Secretary, Madam Beatrice Elachi. First of all, allow me to congratulate you and a very warm welcome. Members of the judiciary present with us here, Your Excellencies, governors and deputy governors here with us today, members of the National Council of People with Disabilities, awardees this evening, sponsors, my fellow chairs and members of the boards, good evening. I stand here to speak today on behalf of parastatals. And the chairs of parastatals, I bring apologies from Isaac Awondo, who was supposed to join us today, and Ambassador Wari, who's just stepped out. And it's just to give you an overview of some of the things that we are doing. I think in the past, perhaps, diversity and inclusion hasn't been mainstreamed within the parastatals. But there are a couple of things that we are focused on right now. The first, when it comes to diversity, and diversity doesn't necessarily mean the female gender. Diversity could mean that you have more females than males and you need to balance it. But it just so happens that in the public sector, there are more males than females. And one of the things that we are very keen on is getting more women seated on boards, seated in positions of influence, seated at the executive level, and into the more technical roles. I would like to thank, through the CAS here, our President, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, for recently, about a year ago, making some very critical public sector appointments, especially in the energy sector, where I represent, where I'm a chair. We also have Vivian Yeda, who's the chair of KPLC. We have Rebecca Miano running Kengen. And this is diversity in action, I think, and going back to what Paul said, and it would be remiss of me if I did not thank Paul, because I have deep roots in Safaricom, and that is where I grew and learned about diversity and inclusion, and I was actually a champion there. So how have we taken it forward? So for instance, in KPC, we're doing a little bit better than you, Paul. At executive level, we are now at 50-50, male-female. And I am very proud to say, it is not tokenism. Sometimes when we talk about diversity, people seem to think that, you're given a job because you're a woman. And actually, that doesn't help the cause of diversity. One of the things that we're very determined to do is to help women to hone their craft, to be good at what they do, so that when they get a job, they get it because they're the best qualified and they're as good as the next best man, and not just because they're a woman. They just happen to be women. And I think that's really important, because there's always a sense of tokenism, And one of the legacies that we as female chairs, those of us who are female chairs now, one of the legacies we want to leave behind is this whole thing of a female chair. You should be able to remove the word female. That's our choose to challenge, and just say chair. You shouldn't be surprised that it's a female. We just happen to be female, but we're as good as our male counterparts, if not better, I would have. So according women equal opportunities in the workplace, it's very important to understand that women do more than work. Women are still in our society, are the main caregivers in the homes. And how do we support them and make our work environment more conducive for women? Is it by building creches? Is it by allowing flexible working hours? Is it by giving them longer maternity? With now people working from home, work is now a space and not a place, and therefore there should be more opportunity for women to sit around the table. And not just women, but differently abled people. I don't like to call them disabled. I think they're differently abled. And we work closely now with institutions such as the National Council of People Living with Disabilities. It wasn't mainstreamed again in parastatals before, but we're doing a lot of CSR work supporting them. And not just supporting them by scholarships, as we do at KPC with the NUCA program, where we provide scholarships to disabled children or differently abled children through high school. We're now taking it forward and saying, if we sponsor you through high school, surely we should sponsor you through university. And so I know my team is here and they're looking at me. We did commit to do that and we are working on it. And beyond that is to say, how do we then further support you when it comes to AGPO? There is, of course, the government regulation that says 30% of procurement must go to AGPO. But how are we in the parastatal sectors actively supporting those who are differently abled and other special groups through the provision of training, through the additional support to make sure that you actually do qualify for those opportunities? And lastly, I think that, our organizations are a reflection of our society. And therefore, we need to make and take very deliberate action. If you don't have a quota that you're targeting for women at senior levels, you're probably not going to hit it. If you don't look at your environment where you're working and figure out, is my environment actually suited for people who are differently abled? If people who are differently abled came to Ken Pipe Plaza today, would they be able to get in, and how long would it take them to get in? And then also, actually what we want to do at Kenya Pipeline is to set aside specific roles that we say these roles will be filled by people who are differently abled, because actually you don't need to, to be fully abled to do those roles. And so this is some of the things that we are doing within the parastatal sector. We are committed to partnering with organizations such as NWCD, DIAR Trust, and others to make sure that we also have diversity in our workplaces. And we're also committed to supporting gender parity and gender inclusivity, because women cannot move forward without men. It takes all of us working together to make a difference. So I thank you for your kind attention. And I hope that we walk out of here today with an even greater commitment to support those who are differently abled and to build a gender equitable society. Thank you very much.